Namaskar guys, today we are going to read Arthashastra by Kautilya. This book in itself is a compilation of 12 other books which is written by Kautilya. So in this video we are going to deal with introduction and the first book which is concerning discipline, in which we are going to see how to appoint ministers, what is the duty of king and other things related to this chapter. Introduction. Chanakya, also known as Kautilya and Vishnugupta, was an Indian philosopher, statesman, royal advisor, and a political strategist. Facts on his life are a mesh of various legends attributed to him in Buddhism, Jainism, and other spiritual paths. He was born sometime around 4th century BCE in a Brahmin family. The Mauryan Empire owes its prosperity and existence, in no small amount, to the ruthless and driven Chanakya. Legend has it that Chanakya went to the court of King Dhanananda, the ruler of Magadha. Due to his physical appearance, he had crooked teeth and misshapen feet. He was insulted by the king himself and thrown out. In utter humiliation and anger, Chanakya roamed around the wilderness, vowing to take revenge. Just then, he came across a band of boys playing. One boy was enacting the role of king, admonishing the thieves and announcing their punishment. This boy was Chandragupta Maurya. Chandragupta, through the counsel of Chanakya, destroyed the Nanda dynasty and became the ruler of Magadha kingdom by starting Mauryan Empire. Chanakya was also the royal advisor of Chandragupta's son Bindusar. Arthashastra and Niti Shastra, also popularly referred as Chanakya Niti, were written more than 2000 years ago. But the teachings encapsulated in these works are practical and can be applied to situations in modern day world, as is evidenced by their popularity and wide readership. Translated as The Science of Gaining Wealth, Arthashastra is a treatise on governance with the written help of the idea that an able government will lead to the generation of the wealth for the people of the nation and the state. This text has become a source of national pride, revealing works by philosophers in the West. It is a record of Chanakya's philosophies on taxation, foreign policy, punishment for crime, defense and war. This work promotes the idea of ruler to use any possible means to hold on to his power, from tricky and surveillance to even spongia and propaganda. This is reason why Chanakya's work is often compared to Machiavelli, the prince. The authorship of Arthashastra is a matter of debate amongst many scholars. Some believe that Kautilya was a reference to clan name of the author and that Chanakya and Kautilya were in fact different people. Some even go as far as Chanakya was only a literary construct created to uphold the upper caste notion of the importance of a Brahmin advisor for royalty. Today, the figure of Chanakya and the endurance of his teachings can be seen through the heavy adaptation and his life story in plays and many immensely popular television series, proving that his life is an area of interest not only for the scholars but also for the masses as well. He was one of the greatest, perhaps the most cunning political mastermind ever existed, and his philosophy on Indian polity, economics and statecrafts will always hold relevance in the people's mind. Starting Book 1. Lesson: The Life of King and the End of Sciences. Starting. Anvikshiki, the triple Vedas, Trai, Varta, agriculture, cattle breeding and trade, and Dandaniti, science of government, are what are called as the four sciences. The school of Manu, Manava, hold that there are only three sciences, the triple Vedas, Varta and the science government, inasmuch as the school of Anvikshiki is nothing but a branch of Vedas. The school of Brihaspati says that there are only two sciences, Varta and the science of government, inasmuch as the triple Vedas are merely an abridgment, pretext for a man experienced in affairs of temporal Lokya Trivadiha. The school of Usanas declares that there is only one science, and that the science of government, for they say it is in that science all other sciences origin and end. But Kautilya holds that four and only four are the sciences, wherefore it is from these sciences that all that concerns righteousness and wealth is learned. Therefore they are so called. Anvikshiki comprises the philosophy of Sankhya, Yoga and Lokavita. Anvikshiki is a विचार शास्त्र या दर्शन फिलोसफी भी कही जाती है. बृहस्पति देवताओं की टीचर माने जाते थे और बृहस्पति को ब्रह्म का अवतार भी माना जाता था। लोकयता एक फिलॉसफी है जो चारवाक के सिमिलर है, जो सिर्फ जो दिखता है उसी पे बिलीव करते हैं, यानी सब्सटेंस, अर्थ, मानव, इसी पे बिलीव करते हैं, ना कोई स्वर्ग, ना पुनर्जन्म, ना मुक्ति, ना नरक। बट कौटिल्या, विच इज द author of this book, righteous and unrighteous act dharma dhura are learnt from the triple Vedas, wealth and non-wealth from Varta, and the expedient and inexpedient Naya Nuyu, and the well potency and impotency Balabale from the science of government. When seen in the light of these sciences, the science of Anvikshiki is most beneficial to the world, keeps the mind steady and firm in will of the woe alike, and bestows excellence of foresight, speech and action. Light to all kinds of knowledge, easy means to accomplish all kinds of acts, and receptacle of all kinds of virtues, is the science of Anvikshiki ever held to be. End of this chapter and starting of second chapter, which is the end of sciences, determination of a place of triple Vedas. The three Vedas, Sama, Rik and Yujus, constitute the triple Vedas. Atharva is not considered in this. These together, Atharva Veda and Ithiyas Veda, are known as Vedas. Shiksha, phonetics, kalpa, ceremonial injections, vyakarna, grammar, nirukta, glossal expressions of obscure Vedic terms, chandas, prosody, astronomy, form of angas. As the triple Vedas definitely determine the respective duties of the four castes and four orders of religious life, they are the most useful. The duty of Brahman is to study, teaching, performance of sacrifice, officiating in others, sacrificial performance, and the giving and receiving of gifts. That of a Kshatriya is study, performance of sacrifice, giving gifts, military occupation, and protection of life. That of Vaishya is study, performance of sacrifice, giving gifts, agriculture, cattle breeding, and trade. That of Sudra is serving the twice born, Dvijati, agriculture, cattle breeding, and trade. The profession of artisans and court bards, which is Karu Kushilvarkanam, officials of court of king. The duty of a householder is earning livelihood by his own profession, marriage among his equal of different ancestral rishis, intercourse with his wedded wife after her monthly ablution, gifts to God, ancestors, guests and servant, and the eating of the remainder. That of a student, brahmachari, is learning the Vedas, fire worship, ablution, leaving the begging and devotion of the teacher even at the cost of his life, or in the absence of his teacher, to the teacher's son or to the elder classmate. That of Vanaspati, Vanprastha, forest recluse, in observance of chastity, sleeping on the bare ground, keeping twisted locks, wearing deer skin, fire worship, ablution, worship of God, ancestors and guests, and living upon foodstuffs and procurable in forest. Which is after the marriage, 50 years, when we became 50 years and go away from the life of marriage, then we became Vanaspratha. That of an ascetic retired from the world, Parivarjak, is complete control of the organ of sense, abstaining from all kinds of work, disowing money, keeping from society, begging in many places, dwelling in forest, purity both internal and external, harmlessness, truthfulness, purity, freedom from spite, subsistence from cruelty, and forgiveness are duties common to all. The observance of one's own duty leads to Svarga and infinite bliss, Anantya. When it is violated, the world will come to an end, owing to the confusion of the caste and duties. Hence the king shall never allow people to swear from their duties. For whoever upholds his own duty, ever adhering to the customs of the Aryas, and following the rule of the caste and division of a religious life, will surely be happy both here and hereafter. For the world, when maintained in accordance with the injunction of triple Vedas, will surely progress but never perish. End of the third chapter. Now the fourth chapter, Varta and Dandaniti. Agriculture, cattle breeding and trade constitute Varta. It is most useful in that brings in grains, cattle, gold, forest produce, Kupya, and free labor, which is Vishti. It is by means of treasury and the army obtained solely through the Varta that the king can hold under his control both his and his enemy's party. That scepter on which the well-beings and progress of sciences of Anvikshiki, the triple Vedas and Varta depend is on Danda, punishment. That which treats Danda is the law of punishment or the science of government, Dandaniti. It is a means of make accusations and to keep them secure. to improve them and distribute among the deserved the profits of improvement. It is on the science of government that the course of the progress of world depends. Hence, says my teacher, whosoever is desirous to the progress of the world shall ever hold the scepter raised, Udayata Danda. Never can there be the betterment instrument than the scepter to bring people under control. No, says Kautilya, for whoever imposes severe punishment becomes repulsive to the people, while he who awards mild punishment becomes contemptible. But whoever imposes punishment as deserved becomes respectable, for punishment, danda, when awarded with due consideration, makes the people devoted to righteousness and to work productive of wealth and enjoyment, while punishment, when ill awarded under the influence of greed and anger, or owing to ignorance, excites fury, even among hermits and ascetics dwelling in forest, not to speak of householders. But when the law of punishment is kept to abeyance, it gives rise to such of disorder as is implied in the proverb of fishes, Matsya Samudraha Bhavati. For in the absence of magistrate, Danda Bharave, the strong will swallow the weak, but under his protection the weak resist the strong. This people, Loka, consisting 4 castes and 4 other orders of the religious life, when governed by the king and with his spectre, will keep to their respective paths, ever devotedly adhering to the respective duties and occupations. End of the 4th chapter. Starting of the 5th chapter, association with the aged. Hence, the first 3 sciences out of the 4 are dependent for their well-being on the science of government. Danda, punishment, which alone can procure safety and security of life, is, in its turn, depend on discipline, Vinaya. Discipline is of 2 kinds, artificial and natural. For instruction, Kriya can render only a docile being conformable to the rules of discipline and not to undocile being, Adharvyam. The study of sciences can tame only those who are possessed of such mental faculties as obedience, hearing, grasping, retentive memory, discrimination, inference, and deliberance, but not others devoid to such faculties. Sciences shall be studied and their precepts strictly observed under the authority of specialist teacher. Having undergone the ceremony of tonsure, the student shall learn the alphabet, lipi, and arithmetic. After investiture with scared thread, he shall study the triple Vedas, the science of Anvikshiki, and the teachers of acknowledged authority, Sishtha, science of Vartra, under government superintendents, and the science of Dandaniti, under theoretical and practical politicians. He, the prince, shall observe celibacy till he becomes 16 years old. Then he shall observe the ceremony of tonsure, Godan, and marry. In view of maintaining efficient discipline, he shall ever and invariably keep company with aged professor of sciences, in whom alone discipline has its firm root. He shall spend the forenoon of receiving lessons in military arts concerning elephants, horses, carriers, and weapons, and the afternoon in hearing the Ithihasa. Purana, Itrivatti, Itihas, Akhyayika tells, Udharana, illustrative stories, Dharmashastra, and Arthashastra are known by name Ithihasa. During the rest of the day and night, he shall not only receive new lessons and revise old lessons, but also hear over and again what has not been clearly understood. For from hearing sutra ensues knowledge, from knowledge steady application, yoga is possible, and from application of self-possessing, atmavatta is possible. This is what is meant to be efficiency of learning, vidya smarthanam. The king who is well educated and disciplined in sciences, devoted to good government of his subjects, and bent on doing good to all people will enjoy the earth unopposed. End of the 5th chapter, association with the aged. Starting of the 6th chapter, restraint of organ of sciences. The shaking of the aggregate of the 6 enemies. Restraint of the organ of sense, on which success in study and discipline depends, can be enforced by annoying lust, anger, greed, vanity, haughtiness, जो गर्व होना होता है, overjoy, harsha. Absence of difference in the perception of sound, touch, color, flavor, and scent by means of the ear, the skin, the eyes, the tongue, and the nose is what is meant by the restraint of the organs of senses. Strict observance of the precepts of sciences also means the same. For the sole aim of all the sciences is nothing but restraint the organ of senses. Whosoever is a reverse character, whoever has not his organs of sense under his control will soon perish, though possessed of whole earth bounded by the four quarters. For example, Bhoja, known also the name Dandakya, making a lascivious attempt of Brahman Maiden, perished along with his kingdom and relations. So also Karala, Vaideha, likewise Janameviya, under the influence of anger against the Brahmans, as well as Talajangaha against the family of Bhirugus. Aila in his attempt under the influence of the greed to make exaction from Brahmans, as well as Ajabindu. Sovirya in the attempt Ravana unwilling under the influence of vanity to restore the stranger's wife, as well as Duryodhana to part with the portion of his kingdom. Dandabhudeva as well as Arjun of Haihaya dynasty being so haughty as to despise all people. Vatappi, brother of Asura, in his attempt under the influence of overjoy to attack Agastya, he is the son of the Indian sage, as well as corporation of Rishnis in their attempt against Dvepiyana. Thus, these and other several kings falling a prey to aggregate of the six enemies and having failed to restrain their organs of senses, perished together with their kingdom and relations. Having driven out the aggregate of six enemies, as well as Ambarisha and Jamadaganya, famous for his restraint on the organs and sense, Nabhaga long enjoyed the earth. Lesson 6 ended. Lesson 7 started. Restraint of organs. The life of saintly king. Hence, by overthrowing the aggregate of six enemies, he shall restrain the organs of senses, acquire wisdom by keeping company with the aged, see through his spices, establish safety and security by being ever active, maintain his subject in the observance of their respective duties by exercising authority, keep up his personal discipline by receiving lessons in the sciences, and endear himself to the people by bringing them in contact with wealth and doing good to them. Thus, with his organs of the sense under his control, he shall keep away from hurting the omen and property of others. Avoid not only lustfulness even in dream, but also falsehood, haughtiness and evil proclivities, and keep away from unrighteous and uneconomical transactions. Not violating righteousness and economy, he shall enjoy his desires. He shall never be devoid of happiness. He may enjoy in an equal degree the three pursuits of life: charity, desire, and wealth, which are interdependent upon each other. One of these are three, when enjoyed to an excess, hurts not only to the other two, but also itself. Kautilya holds that wealth and wealth alone is important, inasmuch as charity and desire depend upon wealth for their realization. Those teachers and ministers who keep him from falling a prey to dangers, and who, by striking the hours of day as determined by measuring shadows, Chanalika Pratodena, warn him to the carelessness and proceeding even in secret, shall invariably be respected. Sovereignty, Rajatattva, is possible only with assistance. The single wheel can never move. Hence, he shall employ ministers and hear their opinion. Chapter 7 ended. Chapter 8 started. Creation of ministers. The king says, Bharatwaj, he was one of the Saptarishi and the father of Dronacharya in Mahabharata, shall employ his classmates as his ministers, for they can be trusted by him as much as the personal knowledge of their honesty and capacity. No, says Visalaksha, for as they have been playmates as well they have despised him, but he shall employ as ministers those whose secrets and possessed of in common are well known to him, possessed of habits and defects in common. With the kings they would never hurt him, lest he would betray their secrets. No, says Kunapandata, for such persons are devoid of other ministerial qualifications. He shall therefore employ as ministers those whose fathers and grandfathers had been ministers before. Such persons, in virtue of their knowledge of past events and of an established relationship with the king, will, though offended, never desert him. For such faithfulness is seen even among dumb animals and cows. For example, stand aside from strange cows and ever keep company with accustomed herd. No, says Vatyayadi, for such a person, having acquired complete dominion over the king, began to play themselves as the king. Hence, he shall employ as ministers such new persons are the proficient in the science of polity. It is such new persons who will regard the king as the real scepter bearer, Dandhadhara, and dare not offend him. No, says son of Bahudunti, a woman. For a man possessed only theoretical knowledge and having no experience of practical policies is likely to commit serious blunders when engaged in actual work. Hence, he shall employ as ministers such as born of high family and possessed of wisdom, purity of purpose, bravery, and loyal feelings, inasmuch as ministerial appointment shall purely depend on qualifications. This, says Kautilya, is satisfactory in all aspects, for a man's ability is inferred from his capacity shown in work and in accordance in difference in the working capacity. Having divided the spheres of their powers and having definitely taken into consideration the place and time where and when they have to work, such persons shall be employed not as councillors, mantrinaha, but also ministerial officers, amatya. Thus, the end of chapter 8, creation of ministers, and the starting of chapter 9, creation of councillors and priests. Native, born to higher family, influential, well-trained in arts, possessed of foresight, wise, a strong memory, bold, eloquent, skillful, intelligent, possessed of enthusiasm, dignity and endurance, pure in character, affable, a form of loyal devotion, endowed of excellent conduct, strength, health and bravery, free from procrastination, fickle-mindedness, affectionate and free from such qualities are exact hatred and enmity. These are the qualifications of a ministerial officer, which is Amatya Sampat. Such as are possessed of one half or one quarter of the above qualification come under middle and low ranks. Of this qualification, native birth and influential position shall be ascertained from reliable persons. Educational qualification Silpa from professors of equal learning. Theoretical and practical knowledge, foresight, retentive memory and affability shall be tested from successful application in works. Eloquence, skillful and flashing intelligence from power shown in narrating stories. Kathya Yogeshu in conversation, endurance, enthusiasm and bravery in troubles, purity of life and friendly disposition and loyal devotion by frequent association, conduct, strength, health, dignity and freedom from indolence and fickle-mindedness shall be ascertained from their intimate friends and affectionate and philanthropic nature by personal experience. The work of king may be visible, invisible, paroksha and inferential. That which he sees is visible, and that which he is taught by another is invisible, and an inference of nature of what is not accomplished from what is accomplished in inferential. As works do not happen to be simultaneous, are various in form and pertain to distant different localities, the king shall, in view of being abreast of time and place, despite his ministerial to carry them out. Such is the work of ministers. Him whose family and characters are highly spoken of, who is well educated in the Vedas and six Angas, is skillful in reading portents, providential or accidental, is well versed in a science of government and performing such expiatory rites as are prescribed by Atharva Veda, and king shall employ as high priest. As a student his teacher, a son of his father, and servant his master, the king shall follow him. That Kshatriya breed which is brought up by Brahmins is charmed with the counsel of good counselors, and which faithfully follows the precepts and shastra, becomes invincible, attains success, though unaided with weapons. End of chapter 9, creation of counselor, and starting of the book. Starting of the chapter 10, asserting by temptations purity or impurity in the character of ministers. Assisted by the Prime Minister, Mantri, and his high priest, the king shall, by offering temptation, examine the character of ministers, Amatya, appointed in government departments of ordinary nature. The king shall dismiss the priest who, when ordered, refuses to teach the Vedas to an outcast person or to officiate sacrificial performance apparently undertaken by an outcast person. Ayajja. Then the dismissed priest shall, through the medium of spies, under the guise of classmates, Satri, instigate each minister one after another, saying an oath. The king is unrighteous. Well, let us set up in his place another king who is righteous, and who is born the same family as the king, and who is kept imprisoned. And neighboring king of his family and self-sufficiency, Ekapragaha, and wild chief Atvika, and an upstart Anupadarika. This attempt is to liking of all of us, must dost do think. If anyone or all of the ministers refuse to acquiesce in such measure, he or they shall be considered pure. This is what is religious allurement. A commander of the army dismissed from service for receiving commendable things, Astapragaha, may, though the agency of spies under the guise of classmates, Satri, incite each minister to murder the king in view of acquiring immense wealth, and each minister being asked, this attempt is liking of all of us, what dost thou think? If they refuse to agree, they are to be considered pure. This is what is termed monetary allurement. A woman spy under the guise of the aesthetic and highly esteemed in a harem of king may allure each prime minister, Mahantra, one another, saying the queen is enamored of thee and has made arrangements for the entrance into her chamber. Beside this, there is also the certain of large acquisition of wealth. If they discard the proposal, they are pure. This is what's styled love allurement. With the intention of sailing on a commercial vessel, Prahavanantam, a minister may induce all other ministers to follow him. Apprehensive of danger, the king may arrest them all. A spy under the guise of fraudulent disciple, pretending to suffer imprisonment, may incite each of the ministers thus deprived of wealth and rank, saying the king has betaken himself to an unwise course, and well, having murdered him, let us put another in his stead. We all like this. What dost thou think? If they refuse to agree, they are pure. This is what termed allurement under fear. Of these tried ministers, those whose character has been tested under religious allurement shall be employed in a civil and criminal courts, Dharmasthanika and Sodhenishu. Those whose purity has been tested under monetary allurement shall be employed in the work of a revenue collector and chamberlain. Those who can be tried under the love allurement shall be appointed superintendent of the pleasure grounds, vihara, both external and internal. Those who have been tested by the allurement under the fear shall be appointed immediate service, and those whose character has been tested under all kinds of allurement shall be employed as the prime minister. While those who are proved impure under one of all those allurement shall be appointed in mines, timbers and forest and manufactories. Teachers have decided that in accordance with ascertained purity, the king shall employ the corresponding works those ministers whose characters has been tested under these three pursuits of life, religion, wealth and love, and under fear. Never in the view of Kautilya shall the king make himself or his queen an object, Laksham, but of testing character of his counselors, nor shall he vitiate the pure like water with poison. Sometimes the prescribed medicine may fail to reach the person to moral disease. The mind of valiant, though naturally kept steadfast, may not even return to and cover its original form. Hence, having set up to the external objects in the butt for all the four kinds of allurement, the king shall, through the agency of spies, Satri, find out the pure and impure characters of the ministers, Amatya. In the end of the chapter 10th and the starting of chapter 11th, the institution of spies. Assisted by the council of his ministers tried under Spongia, the king shall proceed to create spies. Spies under the guise of fraudulent and disciple, Kaptika, Chhatra, and recluse, Udashtita, householders, Griha Paitika, merchant, Vaidhekaha, an ascetic practicing astorism, Tapasa, a classmate or a colleague, Satri, a firebrand, Takshana, poisoner, Rasada, and mendicant woman, Bhikshuki. A skillful person capable of guessing the mind of the others is a fraudulent discipline. Having encouraged such a spy with honor and money rewards, the minister shall tell him, sworn to the king and myself, thou shalt inform us of whatever wickedness thou findest in others. One who is initiated in asceticism and is possessed of foresight and the pure character is a recluse. This spy provided with much money and many disciplines, and such carry shall on agriculture, cattle reading, and trade, Vartakarma, On the land allotted to him for the purpose, out of the produce and profits thus acquired, he shall provide all aesthetics with subsistence, clothing and lodging, and send an espionage such among those under his protection as are desirous to earn livelihood. Vrittikama, ordering each of them detect a particular kind of crime committed in connection with the king's wealth to report of it when they come to receive their subsistence and wages. All the ascetics under the recluse shall severally send their followers on similar errands. The cultivator, fallen from his profession, but possessed of foresights and lure character, is termed a householder spy. This spy shall carry on the cultivation of lands allotted to him, and for the purpose and maintain cultivators etc. as before. A trader, fallen from his profession, possessed of foresights and pure character, in a merchant spy. This spy shall carry on the manufacture and merchandise on lands allotted to him for this purpose, etc. as before. A man with shaved head, munda, and braided hair, jatila, and desirous to earn livelihood in a spy under the guise of aesthetic practicing austerities, such a spy surrounded by a host of disciples with a shaved head and braided hair, may take his abode and shrubs of a city and pretend of a person barely living on a handful of vegetables or meadow grass yavasumashuti, taken once in an interval of the month or two, but he may take in secret his favorite foodstuffs, Gudha Mishta Maharam. Merchant spies pretending to be his disciples may worship him as one proceed of paternal natural powers. His other disciples may widely proclaim that this ascetic is accomplished expert of power of preternatural powers. Regarding those persons who, desirous of knowing their future, throng to him, and he may, though parsimony, foretell such future evils as he can ascertain by the notes and signs of his disciple, and Vidya, concerning the works of high-born people of the country, small profits, destruction of fire, fear from robbers, and execution of seditious, reward for the good, forest of the foreign affairs, Videsa Pravritti Janaram, saying this will happen today, that tomorrow, and that this king will do. Such assertion of this ascetic his disciples shall corroborate by adducing facts and figures. He shall also foretell not only the rewards which persons possessed on foresight, eloquence, and bravery are likely to receive to the hands of the king, but also probably changes the appointment of the ministers. The king's minister shall direct his affairs to conformity to the forecast of the made ascetic. He shall appease with the offers of the wealth and honor those who have and has some well-known cause of disaffected, and impose punishment in secret on those who are no reason disaffected or who are plotting against the king. Honored by the king with awards of money and titles, these 5 institutes of Espongia, Samtaha, shall ascertain the purity of characters of the king's servant. The end of 11th chapter, Institution of Spies, and the chapter 12, Creation of Wandering Spies. Those orphans, Asambhavnidaha, who are necessarily fed by the state and are put to the study science, palmistry, Angavidya, sorcery, Mayagata, and the duties various other orders, the religious life, Legardian, and the reading of omens and Anguri, Antara Chakra, are classmate spies or spies learning to the social intercourse. Such brave despots of the country who recklessly of their own life confront elephants of tigers and fight mainly for the purpose of earning money are termed firebrands and fierce spies. Tikshana, those who have no trace of filial affection left in them, who are very cruel and indolent, are poisoners. Rasada, a poor widow of Brahman caste, very clever and desirous to earn the livelihood in a woman aesthetic, Parivrajika, honored the king's harem. Such a woman shall frequent the residence of the king's prime minister, Mahamutrakullani. The same rule shall apply to the woman with shaved head munda as well as those Sudra caste. All these are wandering spies and Sanrajaha. All these spies, those who are good family, loyal, reliable, well-trained in the art of putting on disguise appropriate of the countries and trades, and possessed the knowledge of many languages and arts, shall be sent by the king as the spy to his country own for the movements of the ministers, priests, commander of army, and their apparent and the enemies. The commissioners and also city constable Nayaka, the officers of the charge of the city Paura, the superintendent of the transaction Vyavaharika, the superintendent of manufactories Karmanitika, the assembly of councillor Mantri Parishad, heads of department Adhyaksha, and the commissionary general Dandapala, and the officers in charge of fortification, boundaries, and wild tracts. Fiery spices such as are employed to hold the royal umbrella, vase, fan, and shoes, or to intend the throne, chariot, and convenience shall espy the public character, Brahim Ikram of these officers. Classmate spies shall convey this information that gathered by the fiery spies to the institutes of Espongia, Samasta Pravaha, poisoners such as sauce maker, Suda, cook, Aralika, processors of water for bathing, Snapak, shampooer, the spreader of bed, Astraka, a barber, Kalpakka, toilet maker, Prasadaka, a water servant, servants such as appearance of hump-backed person and dwarf and pygmy, Kirtaka, the dumb and deaf idiot, the blind, artisans such as actors, dancers, singers, players, and the musical instrumenters, buffoons and bard, as well as women, shall spy private characters of these officers. The maidment women shall convey this information to the Institute of Espongia. The immediate officers of the Institute of Espongia, Samasthan Mantevinashah, shall by making use of science or writing set their own spies in motion to ascertain the validity of the information. Neither the institutes of Espongia nor they, the wandering spies, shall know each other. If a mendicant woman is stopped at the entrance, the line of doorkeepers spies under the guise of father and mother, Matrapiha Vajnaha. Women artisan, courtiers, and prostitutes shall, under the pretext of taking the musical instruments or through cipher writings, Gudahalekha, or by the means of sign, convey the information of the destined place, Charam Nirvaharahu. Or by the spies of the institutes of Espongia, many suddenly go out of the under the pretext and of long-standing diseases and lunacy by setting fire to something or by administering poison to someone. When the information thus received from these three different sources is exactly of the same version, it shall be held reliable. If they, the three sources, frequently differ, the spies concerned shall either be punished this in secret or dismissed. Those spies who are referred to in Book 4th, Removals of Thorns, shall receive their salaries from those kings, para, foreign, with whom they live as a servant. But when they aid both to the states of their work catching hold of a robber, they shall become recipient and salaries from both the states. Those whose sons and wives are kept as hostage shall be made recipients of salaries from two states and considered as under the mission of enemies. Purity of character of such persons shall be ascertained through the persons of similar professions. Thus, the regard of the kings who are emancipable, friendly, intermediate, of a low rank, neutral, and with regard of the 18 government department, Asthalidasa, Tirthaha, spies shall be set in motion. The hump-backed, the dwarf, the inonch, women of accomplished, dumb, various grades of melancholy caste shall be spies inside their houses. Merchant spies inside forts, saints and ascetics and scrubs of forts, the cultivator and the recluse of the country parts, herdsmen in the boundaries of the country, in forest where Sarmanas and the chief of the wild tribes shall be stationed to ascertain in the movement of the enemies. All these spies shall be very quick to the dispatch of their work. Spies set up by foreign kings shall be also be found out by the loyal spies, spies by spies of like profession. It is the institute of Espongia, secret and avowed, that sets spies in motion. Those chiefs whose inimical design has been found out by spies supporting the king's cause shall, in view of affording opportunity to detect the spies of foreign kings, be made to life on the boundaries of the state. The end of chapter 12, which is creation of wandering spies. Chapter 13. Protection of parties for or against one's own cause in one's own state. Having set up spies over his prime minister, Mahamudra, the king shall proceed the spies both citizens and country people, classmate spies Satri, formed as opposing factions, shall carry on disputations in place of pilgrimage, tirtha, in assemblies, houses, corporation, puga, and amid congregations of people. One spy may say, this king is said to be endowed with desirable qualities. He seems to be stranger to such tendencies as would lead him to oppress citizens and country people by levying heavy fines and taxes. Against those who seem to command this opinion, another spy may interrupt the speaker and say, people suffering from anarchy as illustrated by the proverbial tendency of a large fish swallowing a small one. First elected Manu, the Vastaha, to be their king and allotted 1/6 of the grains grown and the 1/10 of the merchandise as sovereign dues. Fed by this payment, king took upon themselves the responsibility of maintaining the safety and security of their subjects, and of being answerable to the sins of their subjects when the principle of levying just punishments and taxes has been violated. Hence, hermits too provide the king with 1/6 of the grains gleaned by them, thinking that it is a tax payable to him who protects us. It is a king in whom the duties of the world, both Indra, the rewarder, and the Yama, the punisher, are blended, and he is visible dispenser of punishments and rewards. Heda Prasada. Whoever disregards kings will be visited with a divine punishment too, and hence king shall never be despised. Thus, treacherous opponents of sovereignty shall be silenced. Spies shall also know the rumors prevalent in the state. Spies with shaved head and braided hair shall ascertain whether there prevails content and discontent among those who live upon in the grains, cattle, and the gold of the king, among those who supply the same to the king in the weal or woe. Those who keep under restraint a disaffected relative of the king or the rebellious district, as well as those who drive away in invading enemy and wild tribe. The greater the content of such persons, the more shall honor shown to them, while those who are disaffected shall be ingratiated by rewards or conciliation, or dissension disaffected by the shown among them, so that they may alienate themselves from each other, from a neighboring enemy, from a wild tribe, and from the banished and imprisoned prince. Failing this measure, they may be so employed in collecting fines and taxes as to incur the displeasure of the people. Those who are inebriated with feelings of enmity may be put down by punishments in secret, and by making them incur of disciplinary of the whole country. Or, having taken the sons and wives of such treacherous person under the state protection, they may be made to in life in mines, lest they may afford shelter to enemies, those that are angry, those that are greedy, those that are alarmed, as well as those despise the king of the instruments of the enemies, spies under the skills of astrologers and tellers of omens and augury, shall ascertain the relationship of such persons with each other and with foreign kings. Honor and rewards shall be conferred upon those that are contented, while those that are disaffected shall be brought around by conciliation, by gifts, and by sowing dissension, or by punishments. Thus, in his own state, a wise king shall guard factions among his people, friendly or hostile, powerful or powerless, against the intrigue of the foreign king. Lesson 13. Protection of parties for against one's one cause and in one's own city is ended, and the next chapter, chapter 14, winning over factions for or against an enemy cause in an enemy's state. Protection of parties for or against one's own cause is one's own state has been dealt with. Similar measures in connection with parties in a foreign state are to be treated of. Those who are deluded with false promise of large rewards, those to whom one party, though equally skillful as another party, an artistic work or in turning out productive or beneficial work, is slighted by bestowing larger rewards on its rival party. Those who are harassed by courtiers, Vallabhai Varudaha, those who are invited to be slighted, and those who are harassed by banishment, those who in spite of their large outlay of money have failed in undertaking. those who are prevented from the exercise of their rights or from taking possession of their inheritance, those who have fallen from their rank and honors in government service, those who are showed to the corner of their kinsmen, and those who women violently assaulted, those who are warned to the misdeeds, those who long suffered from imprisonment, those whose relatives are banished, all those come under the group of provoked persons. He who has fallen a victim to misfortune by his own misdeeds, he who is offended by the king, he whose sinful deeds are brought to light, he who is armed and adverse punishment to the man of like guilt, he who as a relative of such a rich man aspires to inherit his wealth, he who impoverished, he who has lost much wealth, he who is self-sufficient, he who found the honors, he who is intolerant and honors, all constitute to the ambitious persons, and other are haughty persons. Of these, he who clings the particular faction shall be deluded by spies with shaved head and beard hair, as to believe that he is intriguing with the partisans under provocation, for example, may be won over by telling that just as an elephant in rut and mounted over by a driver under intoxication tramples under its foot whenever it comes across, so this king, disposed of the eye of science, blindly attempts to oppress both citizens and country people. It is possible to restrain him by setting up a rival elephant against him, so have forbearance enough. Likewise, alarmed person may be won over by telling just as a hidden snake bites and emits poison over whatever alarms it. So this king, apprehensive of danger from thee, will ere long emit the poison of his resentment on thee. Thou mayest better go elsewhere. All these disaffected persons, when acquiring to be above proposals, may be made under the Sloman Compact, Panacramana, to form of combination together with the spies to achieve their end. Likewise, friends of foreign king may also be won over by means of persuasion and rewards, while implacable enemies may be bought around by showing dispensations and by threats and by pointing out the defect of their master. Thus, the end of lesson 14. Winning over factions for or against an enemy's cause in an enemy's state. Now the chapter 15, the business of council meeting. Having gained a firm hold of affection of both local and foreign parties, both in his own and enemy's state, the king shall proceed to think of administrative measures. All kinds of administrative measures are preceded by deliberation in well-informed and well-formed council. The subject matter of a council shall be entirely secret, and deliberation in it shall be so carried that even birds cannot see them. For it is said that the secrecy of council was devalued by parrots, miners, and dogs, and other oaths creatures to mean birth. Hence, without providing himself with sufficient safeguards against disclosure, he shall never enter into deliberation in the council. Whosoever discloses counsel shall be torn to pieces. The disclosures of councils may be detected by observing changes in the attitude and countenance of envoys, ministers, and masters. Change in conduct is change in attitude. Ingitam manah vitrihi. And observation of physical appearance is countenance. Maintenance of secrecy of a council matter and keeping guard over the officers that have taken part of deliberation over it shall be strictly observed till the time of starting the work of considered approaches. Carelessness, intoxication, talking in sleep, love, and other evil habits of counsellors are the causes of betrayal of counsels. Whoever is of a hidden nature and disregarded will disclose counsel. Hence, steps shall be taken as safeguard counsel against such dangers. Disclosure of counsel is advantageous of persons other than the king and his officers. Hence, says Bharatwaj, the king shall singly deliberate over secret matters, for ministers have their own ministers, and these latter some of their own. This kind of successive line of ministers tends to be disclosure of counsels. Hence, no outside person shall know anything of work which king has in view. Only those who employed to carry it out shall know it either when it began or when it is accomplished. No deliberation, says Visalaksha made by single person will be successful. The nature of a work which is sovereign has to do be with inferred from the consideration of both visible and invisible causes. The perception of what is not and cannot be seen, the conclusive decision of what is seen, and the clearance of doubts as to whatever is susceptible of two opinions, and inference of the whole when only part is seen, and all this is possible of decision only by ministers. Hence he shall sit at deliberation with persons of wide intellect. He shall despise none, but hear the opinions of all. A wise man shall make use of even a child's sensible utterance. This is, says Prasara, asserting the opinions of other, but not keeping counsel. He shall ask his ministers for their opinions on a work similar to the one he has in view, telling them that this is the work, it is happened thus, what is to be done if it will turn out thus, and he shall do as they decide. If it is done thus, both ascertainment of opinions and maintenance of secrecy can be attained. No, not so, says Pisuna. For ministers, when called for their opinions regarding the distant undertakings or an accomplished or an unaccomplished work, either approach the subject with indifference or give their opinions half-heartedly. This is a serious defect. Hence, he shall consult such persons as are believed to be capable of giving decisive opinions regarding those about which he seeks for advice. If he consults thus, he can secure good advice as well as secrecy of counsel. Not so, says Kautilya, for this kind of seeking for advice is infinite and endless. He shall consult 3 or 4 ministers. Consultation with a single minister may not lead to a definite conclusive. In case of complicated issues, a single minister proceeds willfully without restraint. In deliberating with 2 ministers, the king may have overpowered by their combined action or imperiled by their mutual dissension. But with 3 or 4 ministers, he will not come to any serious grief, but will arrive at satisfactory result. With ministers more than 4 in number, he will make a decision after a good deal of trouble, nor will secrecy of counsel be maintained without much of trouble. In accordance with the requirement of place, time and nature of the work in view, he may, as deems it proper, deliberate with 1 or 2 ministers or by himself. Means to carry out works: command of plenty of men and wealth, allotment of time and place, remedies against dangers, and final success of the 5 constitute of every council deliberation. The king may ask his ministers for their opinion either individually or collectively, and ascertain their ability by judging over the reasons they assign for their opinions. He shall lose no time when the opportunity waited for arrives, and nor he shall sit along at consultation with those whose parties are intents to hurt. The school of Manu says the assembly of ministers, Mantri Parishad, shall be made a consist of 12 members. The school of Brihaspati says it shall be consist of 7 members. The school of Usana says it should be consist of 20 members. The school of Kautilya holds that it shall consist as many members as needs of his dominion require. Those ministers shall have to consider all that concerns the parties of both kings and enemies. They shall also set themselves to start the work that is not yet begun, to complete what has been begun, to improve what has been accomplished, to enforce a strict obedience to order Niyoga Sampadam. He shall supervise work in company with his officers that are near Asaniya, and consult by sending writs those that are not near Asana. 1000 sages from Indra's assembly of minister, Mantri Parishad, they are his eyes. Hence, he is called 1000 eyes, though he possesses only 2 eyes. He works of emergency. He shall call both his ministers and the assembly of ministers, Mantrino Parishad Cha, and tell them the same thing. He shall do whatever the majority, Bhutiha, of the members suggest, or of whatever, of course, the action leading to the success they point out. And while doing any work, none of his enemies shall know his secret, and he shall know the weak point of his enemy. Like a tortoise, he shall draw the limbs that are stretched out. Just as balls of meal offered to the ancestors by the person not learned in the Vedas are unfit to be eaten by wise men, So whoever is not well versed is thus in silences shall be unfit to hear the council deliberation. The end of chapter 15, the business of council meeting. The end and the starting of the chapter 16, the mission of envoys. Whoever has succeeded as a council of is an envoy. Whoever possesses ministerial qualification is a charge d'affaires. Whoever possesses the same qualification less by one quarter is an agent entrusted with a definite mission. Whosoever possesses the same qualifications less by one half is a conveyor of royal writs. Having made excellent arrangement for carriage, conveyance, and servants of subsistence, be envoy shall start on his mission, thinking that the enemy shall be told this. The enemy, para, will say, thus this shall be replied to him, and thus he shall be imposed upon. The envoy shall make friendship with the enemy's officer, shall as those in charge wild tracts of boundaries of cities and of countries part. He shall also contrast the military stations and sinew of wars and strongholds of the enemy with those of his own master. He shall ascertain his size and area of force, and of that as well as strongholds, the precious things and accessible and unassailable point. Having obtained permission, he shall enter into the capital of the enemy and state the object of the mission as exactly as entrusted to him, even at the cost of his own life. Brightness in the tone, face, and eyes of enemies, respectful reception of the mission, inquiry about the health of friends, taking out the narrations of the virtues, giving the seat close to in the throne, respectful treatment of the envoy, remembrance of friends, closing the mission with satisfaction. All of this shall be noted as indicating of good graces of the enemy and reverse of displeasure. A displeased enemy may be told, messenger are mouthpieces of kings, not only by themselves but of all. Hence messengers who in the face of weapons raised against them, who have to express them missions as exactly as they are entrusted with, do not, though outcast, deserve death, and where is then a reason to put messenger of Brahman cast or to death. This is another speech. Thus delivery of that speech verbatim is the duty of messenger, not puffed up with the respect shown to him. He shall stay there till he is allowed to depart. He shall not care for the mightiness of the enemy, shall strictly avoid women and liquor, shall take bed single, for it is well known that the intentions of envoys are ascertained while they are asleep or under the influence of liquor. He shall through the agency of aesthetic and merchant spices, and through their disciples, and through spies under the disguise of physicians and heretics, through recipients of salaries from two states, Udhyavetana, ascertain the nature of the intrigue prevalent among parties favorable disposed to his own master, as well as conspiracy of the hostile factions, and understand the loyalty or disloyalty of the people to the enemy besides any accessible points. So, if there is no possibility of carrying any such conversation with the people regarding their loyalty, he may try to gather much information by observing of the talk of beggars, intoxicated and insane persons, or of persons babbling in sleep, or by observing the signs made at places like pilgrimages, temples, and deciphering painting and secret writings. Chitra Gudha Lekha Samjana Biha. This is all written above. Whatever information he thus gather, he shall try to test by intrigues. He shall not check the estimate which the enemy makes of the all known to the thee, nor shall he disclose the means employed by his master to achieve an end in view. If he has not succeeded in his mission, but is still detained by he shall proceed to infer thus, whether seeing the imminent danger with which any master is likely to fall, and desirous adverting his own danger, whether in view or exciting against my master, an enemy threatening in the rear, or the king whose dominion in the rear is separated by other intervening state, whether in view of causing internal rebellion in my master's state, and inciting a wild chief Atavika against my master, whether in a view of destroying my master by employing a friend, or a king whose dominion stretches out the rest of my master state, Akranda, whether with the intention of averting the internal trouble in his own state, or of preventing a foreign invasion or inroads the wild chief, whether in view of causing the approaching time of the master's expedition of a lapse, whether with the desire of collecting raw materials and merchandise, of the repairing his fortifications, or of recruiting a strong army incapable of fight, whether waiting for the time and opportunity necessary for the complete training of his own army, or whether in a view of making a desirable alliance in order to avert the present contempt brought about by his own carelessness, this king detains me thus. Then he may say or get out as he deems is desirable, or he may demand a speedy settlement of his mission, or having intimated an unfavorable order Sasana to the enemy, and pretending comprehension of imprisonment or death, he may return even without permission, otherwise he may be punished. Transmission of missions, maintenance of treaties, issues of ultimatum, pratapa, gaining of friends, intrigue, sowing dissension among friends, fetching the certain forces, carrying away the stealth relatives and gems, gathering the information about the movement of spies, bravery, breaking the treaties of peace, winning over the favor of the envoy and government officers of the enemy. These are the duties of the envoy. Duta. The king shall employ his own envoys to carry on the works of the above description, and guard himself against the mischief of foreign envoys by employing counter-employs, envoy spies and visible and invisible watchmen. End of chapter 16. The mission of envoys. Now the chapter 17. Protection of princes. Having secured his own personal safety, first from his wives and sons, the king can be in a position to maintain the security of his kingdom against immediate enemies as well as foreign enemies. He shall treat the protection of wives in connection with duties towards the harem. Ever since the birth of princes, the king shall take special care of them. For, says Bharatwaj, princes like crabs have a notorious tendency of eating up their begetter. When they are waiting to filial affection, they shall better be punished in secret. This is, says Visalaka, cruelty, destruction of fortune, and expansion of the seed of a race of Kshatriyas. Hence, it is better to keep them under guard in a definite place. This says School of Prasara. Is a keen of a fear from a lurking snake, Abhiyama, for a prince may think apprehensive of a danger. His father has locked him up and may attempt to put his own father on his lap. Hence, it is better to keep the prince under the custody of boundary guards or inside in fort. This says Vitahavedi is a keen of a position of the flag. For as in the case of Aditi and Kaushika, the prince's maternal relation may, unfurling this flag, go on begging. Hence, princes may be suffered to dissipate their lives in sensual excesses, and as much as revealing sons do not dislike their indulgent father. This says Kautilya, in the death in life is death in life, for no sooner in a royal family with a prince or princess given to dispassion attacked, then it perishes like a worm-eaten piece of wood. Hence, when the queen attains the age favorable for procreation, priest shall offer the Indra and Brihaspati the request oblation. When she is big with a child, the king shall observe the instruction of Maldefiery with regard to the gestation and delivery. After delivery, the priest shall perform the prescribed purificatory ceremonial. When the prince attains the necessary age, adults shall train him under proper discipline. Any one of the classmate spies, any politician known as Abhimaya, may allure the prince towards hunting, gambling, liquor, and women, and instigate him to attack his own father and snatch reins of government in his own hands. Another spy shall prevent him from such acts. There can be, says Kautilya, no greater crime or sin than making a wicked impression on an innocent mind. Just as the flesh object is sustained with whatever it is bound in close association, so a prince with a fresh mind is apt to regard as scientific injunctions all that is he told of. Hence, he shall be taught only a righteous and of wealth, artha, and not of unrighteous and non-wealth. Classmate spies shall be a courteous towards him, as to say, thine are we. When under the temptation of youth he turns his eye towards women, impure women under the disguise of Aryas shall at the night and in lonely places terrify him. When fond of lucre, he shall be terrified by making him drunk such as liquor as is adulterated with narcotics, yogapana. When found in gambling, he shall be terrified by spies under the disguise of fraudulent and persons. When food of hunting, he shall be terrified by spies under the disguise of highway robbers. And when desirous of attacking his own father, he shall under the pretense of compliances be gradually persuaded to the evil consequences of such attempts, by telling a king is not made by a mere wish. Failure of thee attempt will bring about thee own death. Success makes thee fall into hell and cause the people of lament for thy father, and destroy the only clod eklosto vadhacha thee self. When a king has an only son who is either devoid of worldly pleasure or infatuate child, the king may keep him under chains. If a king has many sons, he may send some of them to where there is no heir apparent, nor a child either just born or born in the embryo. When a prince is possessed of good and emancipable qualities, he may be made the commander of in chief and installed as higher apparent. Sons are the three kinds: those who sharp intelligence, those who stagnate intelligence, and those who perverted mind. Those carries the practice whatever he is taught. Concerning righteous and wealth is one of sharp intelligence. Whosoever never carries into practice of good instruction he has imbibed is as a stagnant intelligence, and whosoever entangles himself in dangers and hates righteous and wealth is perverted mind. If a king has an only son of the last type, attempts shall be made procreating a son to him, or sons may be begotten on his daughters. When a king is too old or diseased to beget sons, he may appoint a material relation, maternal relation, or a blood relation, kulya, of his or any of his neighboring kings possessed of good emancipable qualities to sow the seed of his own field, kshetra bijam, and to beget a son of his wife. But never shall be wicked and an only son be installed on a royal throne. The royal father who is the only prop for money people shall be favorable disposed towards his son. Except in danger, sovereignty falling to be the lot of the eldest son is always respected. Sovereignty may sometimes be the property of a clan, for the corporation of the clans is invincible in its nature and being free from the calamities of anarchy, and can have a permanent existence on the earth. The end of chapter 17. Protection of princes. Starting of the chapter 18. The conduct of prince kept under restraint, and treatment and restrained prince. A prince, though put a troubles and employed in an unequal task, shall yet faithfully follow his father unless that task cost his life, engages the people, and causes any other serious calamities. If he is employed in a good and meritorious work, he shall try to win the good graces of the superintendent of that work, and carry to the work of profitable end beyond expectation, and present his father with the proportional profit derived from that work, as well as with the excessive profit due to his skill. If the king is not still pleased with him and shows undue partiality to another prince and other wives, he may request the king to permit him for a forest life. Or if he apprehends imprisonment or death, he may seek refuge under the neighboring kings, who is known to be righteous and charitable, truthful, and not given to cunning, but also welcomes and respects guests of a good character. Residing therein, he may be provide himself with men and money, contract marriage connection with influential personages, and not only make alliance with the wilder tribes, but win over the parties. Or moving alone, he may earn his livelihood by working in gold mines and ruby mines, or by manufacturing gold or silver ornaments or any other commercial commodities. Having acquired close intimacy with Heretics, Pashanda, rich widows, and merchant carrying on ocean tariffs, he may, by making use of poison, Mandanasara, rob them of their wealth, as well as wealth of gods, unless the latter is enjoyable by Brahmins learned in the Vedas. Or he may adopt such measures as are employed to capture the villages of a foreign king. Or he may proceed against his father with the help of servants or of his mother, or having disguised himself as a fenter, a carpenter, court bard, a physician, a buffon, herald, assisted of spies under similar disguise. He may, when opportunity offers itself, present himself armed with weapons and poison before the king and address him, I am the heir apparent. It does not become thee to enjoy the state alone, when it is enjoyable by both of us. And when others justly desire such enjoyment, I ought not to be kept away from awarding an allowance of a double of subsistence and salary. Or a secret emissary armed with weapon and poison may kill an abandoned prince. He is not abandoned. He may be caught hold at night by employing women equal in occasion, or by making a use of liquor, or an occasion of hunting, and brought back to the court. When thus brought back, he shall be conciliated by the king with promise of sovereignty after me. After the king's death, they kept under guard in a definite locality, or if the king has many sons, an unruly prince may be banished. Lesson number 18. Conduct of prince kept under restraint and treatment of the restrained prince. Starting of the chapter 19. The duties of king. If a king is energetic, his subjects will be equally energetic. If he is reckless, they will not be only reckless likewise, but also eat into his works. Besides, a reckless king will easily fall into the heads of enemies. Hence, the king shall ever be wakeful. He shall divide both the day and night into the 8 nalikas, 1.5 hours, and according to the length of the shadow cast by the granon standing in the sun, the shadow of 3 purushas, 33 angulas and or inches of the purusha, 12 inches, or the 4 angulas, 4 inches. Absence of shadows denoting midday are the 4-1/8 division of the forenoon, like division in the reverse order in the afternoon. Of these divisions, during the first 1/8 part of the day, he shall post watchman and attend the accounts of the receipt and expenditure. During the second part, he shall look at the affairs of both citizens and country people. During the third, he shall not only bath and dine, but also study. During the fourth, he shall not only receive revenue in gold hirayana, but also attend the appointment of the superintendent. During the fifth, he shall correspond in writs pratasam prashemna with the assembly of his ministers, and receive the secret information gathered by his spies. During the sixth, he may engage himself in the favorite amusement or in the self-liberation. During the seventh, he shall superintend elephants, horses, chariots, and infantry. During the eighth, he shall consider various plans of military operations with his commander-in-chief. At the close of the day, he shall observe the evening prayer sandhya. During the first 1/8 part of the night, he shall receive secret emissaries. During the second, he shall attend the bathing and supper, the study, and during the third, he shall enter the bed chamber mid of the sound trumpet and enjoy sleep during the fourth, fifth parts. Having been awakened sound of the trumpet in the sixth part, he shall recall to his mind the injection of sciences. He well as the days of duties. During the seventh, he shall sit considering administrative measures and send our spies, and during the 8th division of the night, he shall receive benedictions of sacrificial priest, teachers, and the high priest. And having seen his physician, chief cook, and astrologers, they having saluted both a cow with a half of a calf and bull circumambulating round them, he shall get out into his court. or in conformity of his capacity he may alter the timetable and attend to his duties. When in the court he shall never cause his petitioner to wait at the door, or when the king makes himself inaccessible to his people and entrusts his work to his immediate officer, he may be sure to endanger confusion in business and to cause thereby public disaffection and himself a prey to his enemies. He shall therefore personally attend the business of gods and heretics of Brahmins learned in the Vedas, of cattle and sacred places, of minors, the aged, afflicted, and the helpless, and of women, and all this in order. The enumerations of according of urgency and pressure of those works, all urgent calls he shall hear at once, but never put off. For when postponed, they will prove too hard or too impossible to accomplish. Having seated himself in the room where the sacred fire has been kept, he shall attend the business of physicians, ascetics practicing austerities, and that in company with the high priest and the teachers, and after preliminary salvation of the petitioners, accompanied by the persons proficient in the three sciences, Trividya, but not alone lest the petitioners be offended. He shall look to the business of those who are practicing austerities as well as those who are accept of witchcraft and yoga. Of king, the religious vow in the readiness of the action and satisfactory discharge of duties is his performance of sacrifice. Equal attention to all is the offer of feast and ablution towards consecration. In the happiness of his subject lies his happiness, in their welfare his welfare. Whatever praises himself he shall not consider as good, but whatever pleases his subject he shall consider as good. Hence, the king shall never be active and discharge his duties. The root of wealth is activity, and the evil of its reverse. The absence of the activity, acquisitions present and to come will perish. By the activity, he can achieve both his desired ends and abundance of wealth. Thus, end of chapter 19, the duties of kings, and starting of chapter 20, duty towards harem. On a site naturally best fitted for the purpose of the king shall construct his harem, consisting the many compartments, one within the other, enclosed by the parapet or the ditch, and provided with a door. He shall construct his own residential palace after the model of his treasury house, or he may have his residential abode in the center of disclosure chamber, Mohana Griha, provided with a secret passage made into the walls, or in an underground chamber provided with the figures of goddesses and altars, Chaitya, carved by the wooden door frame and connected with many underground passages for exit, or in an upper story provided with a staircase hidden in a wall, with a passage for exit made in a hollow pillar, the whole building being so constructed with a mechanical contrivance as to be caused to fall down when necessary, or considering the danger from his own classmates, Sahadhyayi. Such contrivances as the above, mainly intended as safeguards against danger, may be made an occasion of a danger, or likewise as he deems fit. No other kind of fire can burn that harem which is thrice circumambulated from right to the left by the fire of human make, Manushinganikaha. Nor can there be kindled any other fire, nor can fire destroy that harem, the wall of that which are made in the mud of mixed with ashes, produced by lightning and weighted in a hell water. Poisonous snakes will not dare to enter into such buildings as are provided with Jivanti, Sveta, Mushkakshupupa, and Vandaka, as are protected by the branches of Prajita and Avataha. Cats, peacocks, mangoes, and spotted deer eat up snakes. Parrot, minas, sarika, and mulber birds, Brajagara, Shirek, when they perceive the smell of the snake poison. The henon, Cruncha, swoons the vacanity of the poison. The pheasant feels distraught. The youth cuckoo dies. The eyes of partridges are reddened. Thus, remedies shall be applied against the fire and poison. On one side, in the rear of the harem, there shall be made for the residents of the women compartment, provided not only with any kind of medicines useful in midwifery and diseases, but also with well-known pot herbs. and a water reservoir outside these compartments, and the residence of prince and princess in the front of latter building, the toilet ground, the council ground, the court, and the offices of a higher apartment and of superintendents. In the intervening places, both two compartments, the army of the officers in charge of the harem shall be stationed. When the interior of the harem, the king shall see the queen only when her personal purity is vouchsafed. By an old maid servant, he shall not touch any woman unless he is apprised of her personal purity. For the hidden of the queen's chamber, his own brother, swell King Bhadrasena, hiding himself under the bed of his mother, the son killed King Karusa, mixing fried rice with poison, as though with honey. His own queen poisoned Kasiraja with an anklet painted with poison. His own queen killed Vairatnya with a gem of her zone behoarded with poison. His own queen killed Saurya and his own queen Jalutha with a weapon hidden under her top of hair. His own queen swell with Ruta. Hence the king shall always be careful to avoid such lurking dangers. He shall keep away his wives from the society of ascetics with shaved head and beard hair, of buffoons and outside of the prostitutes and dasi. Nor shall women high birth have the occasions to see his half of the wives except appointed midwives. Prostitutes with personal cleanliness affected the fresh bath and with the fresh garments and ornaments shall attend the harem. The passage of all kinds of commodities from or into the harems shall be restricted and shall, after the careful examination, be allowed to reach their destination either inside or outside the harem as indicated by the self-mark mudra. Chapter 21 Personal Safety, and the last chapter of this book. On getting up from the bed, the king shall be received by troops of women armed with bows. In the second compartment, he shall be received by the Kanchuki, presenter of the king's coat, the Ushinis, presenter of the king's headdress, aged persons, and other armed attendants. In the third compartment, he shall be received by crocked and dwarfish men. In the fourth, by prime minister, kinsmen, and doors keeper with barbed missiles and in their hand. The king shall employ as his personal attendants those whose fathers and grandfathers had been royal servants, those who bear close relationship to king, those who are well trained and loyal, and those who are rendered good service. Neither foreigners nor those who have earned neither rewards nor honor by rendering good service, nor even natives who engaged inimical works from a background or bodyguard of king, or the troops of the officer in charge of the harem. In a well-guarded locality, the head cook Mahansika shall supervise the preparation of the varieties of relishing dishes. The king shall partake of such fresh dishes after making an oblation out of them, first to the fire and then the bird. When the flame and the smoke turn blue and crackle, when the birds that eat the oblation die, presence of the poison in the fish shall be inferred. When the vapor rising from cooked rice pauses, and color of the neck of peacock and appears chill as if suddenly cooled. When vegetable possesses an unnatural color and a war watery and hardened, and appear to have suddenly turned dry, being those possessed of broken layers of blackish foam, and being devoid to smell, touch, and taste natural to them. When utensil reflects light either more or less than usual, are covered with the layer of foam at the edges, when any liquid preparation possesses strikes on its surface, when milk bears a bluish streak in the center of its surface, when liquor and water possesses reddish streaks, when curd is marked with black and dark streaks. As a person who has administered poison, the marks are parched and dry mouth, hesitation in speaking, heavy perspiration, yawning too, much bodily tremor, frequent tumbling, evasion of speech, carelessness in work, and unwillingness to keep the place assigned to him. Hence physicians and experts capable of detecting poison shall never attend upon the king. Having taken out from the storeroom of the medicines, that medicines the purity of which has been proved by experiments, and having himself together with the decoctioners and purveyor Pachaka and Poshaka tested it, the physician shall hand over the medicine to the king. The same rule shall apply to liquor and other beverages. Having cleaned their person and hands by fresh bath, put on newly washed garment, servants in charge of dresses and toilets shall serve the king with dresses and toilets received under the seal from the officer of the charge of the harem. Prostitutes shall do the duty of bathroom servants and shampooners, beading room servants, washermen, and flower garland makers, while presenting to the king water, scents for fragrant powder, dress, and garlands. Servants, along with the above prostitutes, shall first touch these things by their eyes, arms, and wrist. The same rule shall apply to whatever has been received to the outsider person. Musicians shall entertain the king with those kinds of amusement in the weapons of fire and poison are not kind of use. Musical instrument as well as ornament of horses, chariots, and elephants shall invariably be kept inside the harem. The king shall mount over chariots and beasts of burden only where they are first mounted over by his hereditary driver or rider. He shall get into a boat only when it is piloted by the trustworthy sailor and is conjoined a second half a boat. He shall never sail on the ship which had once been weather beaten, and while boating on a good ship, his army shall all while stand on the bank of the shore. He shall get into much water as a free from large fishes, matsya, and crocodile. He shall ramble only in such forest as free as are feed and snakes and crocodiles graha. With a view of acquiring insufficiency in skill of shooting arrows at moving object, he shall engage himself in sports in such forests as are cleared by the hunters and hound keepers from the fear of highway robbers, snakes, and enemies. Attended by trustworthy bodyguard armed with weapons, he shall give the interview to sons and ascetics. Surrounded by his assembly of ministers, he shall receive the envoys of foreign states. Attired in military dress and having mounted a horse, chariot, or an elephant, he shall go see his army equipped in military array. On the occasion of going out, coming into the capital, the king's road shall on both sides be guarded by the staff bearers and freed from the presence of armed persons, ascetics, and the cripple Vanga. He shall go to witness festive trains and fierce yatra, procession, and sacrificial performances only when they are policed by band the 10 communities. Just as he attends the personal safety of the other through the agency of spies, so a wise king shall also take care of to secure his person from eternal danger. Thus, end of chapter 21, the personal safety, and end of the book,